In the vibrant chaos of the city farmers market, Dr. Aris Thorne moved like a ghost, untouched by the lively bustle around him. Then, a haunting melody, unique and deeply familiar, drifted from a street musician's guitar, striking a forgotten chord deep within his soul. The melody, a phantom limb of memory, clung to Aris as he returned to his penthouse, a monument to his meticulous success and profound solitude. His apartment, all glass and steel, mirrored the sterile precision of his operating room and the emptiness within. He was a celebrated surgeon, his name synonymous with medical excellence, but his achievements felt like gilded chains. Every polished surface reflected his solitary silhouette, a man who had built an empire of skill yet inhabited a desert of the heart. Success had bought him everything but peace, leaving him with only the echoing silence and the ghost of a pivotal mistake, a life he couldn't save, forever etched into his conscience. 15 years earlier, the operating room had been a crucible of flashing lights and hushed commands. Young Aris, then a brilliant but inexperienced resident, stood poised over a patient, adrenaline pumping. "Scalpel," he'd ordered, his voice betraying a tremor. A split-second decision, born of youthful confidence and crushing pressure, had been made. Then, the rhythmic beep-beep-beep-beep-beep of the monitor flatlined into a piercing, continuous shriek, a nurse's gasp, a flurry of desperate motions. But it was too late. The light in the room, and in Aris's soul, died with that sound. Later, in a hushed consultation room, he faced a family whose grief was a tangible, crushing weight. His apologies, heartfelt yet hollow, could never mend what his hands had broken. Back in the present, the memory still raw, Aris found himself drawn to an old mahogany box. Inside, tucked beneath forgotten letters, was a faded photograph. A younger, unburdened Aris, his arm around a girl with eyes that sparkled like sunlight on water. Elara. Her laughter, a chime of pure joy, still resonated in his mind. He'd composed that melody for her, a secret symphony shared only between them, each note woven with adolescent dreams and promises. Then, without a trace, her family had moved, taking with them not just Elara, but a piece of Aris's own vibrant youth. The memory was a dull ache, a wound that had never truly healed, suddenly reopened by a street musician's tune. Meanwhile, in the Sunday morning chill of the farmer's market, Lena Petrova's fingers danced across her guitar strings. The unique melody flowed effortlessly, a bittersweet comfort. Her battered guitar case lay open, a few scattered coins a meager offering against the tide of her expenses. Her uniform was clean but worn, a testament to long hours and relentless effort. Her quiet dignity, however, was unyielding, a fierce resolve burning behind her weary eyes. She played not for fame, but for survival, each note a silent plea against the harsh realities of her life. Yet, as the familiar tune filled the air, a flicker of something deeper, a quiet reverence, crossed her face. He knew that song. But how? The question had gnawed at Dr. Aris Thorne since Saturday, a relentless hum beneath the sterile quiet of his successful life. Sunday dawned, and a primal urge pulled him back to the bustling city farmers market. He wove through the cheerful crowds, past stalls overflowing with artisan cheeses and vibrant flowers, his gaze scanning for her. There she was, tucked away near a quiet fountain, her guitar case open, the same unique melody flowing from her fingers. Aris positioned himself behind a bread stall, partially hidden, and listened. Every intricate passage, every unexpected chord change, resonated with a familiarity that chilled him to the bone. It was his. The melody he had composed for Elara, a secret language only they shared. A deep sense of longing and a burning, almost obsessive curiosity compelled him forward. Aris waited until the last lingering notes faded, and Lena began to carefully pack her guitar. He approached, feeling an awkwardness he hadn't experienced since adolescence. This was a renowned surgeon, accustomed to command, yet now his palms were damp. "Excuse me," he began, his voice surprisingly soft. Lena looked up, her eyes wary, a flicker of recognition in them. "Your playing is beautiful," he continued, a genuine compliment. "That last melody, it's quite unique. Where did you learn it?" Lena tightened her grip on her guitar case. "It's just an old song," she replied. her voice soft but guarded, avoiding his direct gaze. A family tune. She didn't elaborate, her movements precise as she secured the instrument, clearly signaling an end to the conversation. Aris felt a surge of frustration, but also a strange validation. She was hiding something. Back in the clinical perfection of his penthouse, the encounter replayed in Aris's mind. An old song, a family tune, her words echoed. Insufficient, dismissive. He moved to his study, retrieving a worn leather portfolio from a hidden compartment. Inside were the fragments of his youth, including the faded sheet music. His fingers, usually so steady in surgery, trembled as he laid it out. He hummed the melody Lena had played, then traced the notes on his yellowed paper. And there it was. A specific, almost imperceptible lyrical change. A minor key shift he had added in a fit of teenage melancholy, a secret embellishment meant only for Elara's ears. Lena had played it. Exactly. This wasn't a coincidence, a shared cultural tune. This was their song. The realization hit him with the force of a physical blow, deepening his obsession, transforming a glimmer of hope into a determined, almost feverish resolve. He would find the truth. Miles away, in her small, functional apartment, Lena Petrova felt the day's weariness settle deep into her bones. The strange man at the market had unsettled her, his intense gaze too familiar, too probing. After a quick, frugal dinner, she sat on her worn sofa, a single lamp casting a warm glow on a small, framed photograph she kept on the end table. It was an old, sepia-toned picture of a young woman with a guitar, a faint, melancholic smile on her face. Elara, her grandmother. Lena's fingers gently traced the image, then moved to the neck of her own guitar, resting against the wall. This melody, the one the surgeon had asked about, was Elara's. A song she had taught Lena, a piece of their history. It was a comfort, a connection to a past that was both cherished and, at times, painfully heavy. The next morning, the drizzly dawn found Aris Thorne leaning against his sleek car outside Lena's modest apartment building. Sleep had offered no respite from the melody, from the gnawing certainty. He saw her emerge, guitar case in hand, her face a mixture of fatigue and quiet determination. "Lena," he called, his voice firm, leaving no room for evasion. She stopped, startled, her eyes widening slightly as she recognized him. "I need to ask you something directly." Aris pressed, stepping closer. "Do you know a woman named Elara? Elara Vance?" Lena's shoulders stiffened. Her eyes, usually so expressive in her music, turned cold and defensive. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, her voice sharp, a protective edge to it. "Please, leave me alone." With that, she turned abruptly, walking away with a brisk pace, leaving Aris frustrated, but more resolute than ever. He won't give up. She can't escape. Who is this mysterious surgeon? Lena Petrova strummed her guitar, the familiar, intricate notes of the melody flowing from her fingertips, but her heart wasn't entirely in it. A subtle unease prickled at the back of her neck, a sensation that had become all too common in recent days. Her gaze, meant to sweep the market crowd, kept snagging on a figure standing partially obscured by a vibrant stall of organic produce. Dr. Aris Thorne. He was there again, his presence a silent, persistent question mark in her peripheral vision. His intense, unwavering stare made her fingers falter on the fretboard, a rare misstep in her usually flawless performance. She tried to dismiss him, to focus on the appreciative smiles of the market patrons, but his gaze was a physical weight, pressing down on her. Finishing her set earlier than usual, Lena quickly packed her guitar, a knot of apprehension tightening in her stomach. She felt watched, a strange man's silent obsession disrupting the fragile peace of her days. When a surgeon hires a private investigator for a street musician, you know it's not about the money. Aris sat across from Marcus Bell, a man whose nondescript appearance belied a formidable talent for unearthing secrets. The cafe hummed with the gentle clatter of ceramic cups, a stark contrast to the frantic beat of Aris's own heart. "I need you to find out everything you can about her," Aris said, pushing a photograph of Lena across the table. He felt a blush creep up his neck, a renowned surgeon asking a private eye to investigate a street musician. "Her name is Lena Petrova. She plays a specific melody." One I composed years ago for a childhood friend, Elara Vance. I need to know where she learned it. And I need to know if she has any connection to Elara's family. Marcus, a man of few expressions, raised a skeptical eyebrow. A melody, Doctor? This isn't a lost dog, it's a song. Aris met his gaze, his own, filled with a desperate, unyielding conviction. It's more than a song, Mr. Bell. It's a ghost, and I need to know who's keeping it alive. Marcus sighed, then nodded, making a few swift notes in his small, leather-bound book. Understood, Dr. Thorne. Discreet, efficient, and expensive. As usual. The hospital's top surgeon is distracted. Could his personal quest cost him everything? The sterile quiet of Dr. Alistair Finch's office was broken only by the soft whir of the air conditioning. Dr. Thorne, Finch began, his voice a cool, precise instrument. There have been some observations. Aris stood ramrod straight, his posture betraying none of the turmoil swirling within him. Finch, the head of surgery, a man whose ambition was as sharp as his scalpels, leaned forward, his gaze piercing. Your recent performance reviews indicate a certain absent-mindedness, a lack of focus. We cannot afford distractions, Aris. Not in this profession. Not with the lives we hold in our hands. He paused, letting the words hang in the air. I understand you've been spotted in rather unconventional settings, engaging with individuals who are hardly within your professional circle. Aris's jaw tightened. He knew what this was about. My personal life does not interfere with my professional duties, Dr. Finch. Finch offered a thin, humorless smile. For your sake, I hope that remains true. Your position here, Aris, is contingent upon your absolute dedication. Consider this a final warning. Aris left the office, the threat echoing in his ears, a chilling counterpoint to the persistent melody in his mind. She's not just playing for tips. This street musician carries a secret burden. Lena clutched Maya's small, pale hand as they sat in the fluorescent-lit waiting room of the community clinic. Maya coughed, a dry, rattling sound that wrung Lena's heart. Lena, we're still concerned about Maya's chronic respiratory issues, the doctor explained gently, his voice weary. The medication is helping, but it's expensive. And we need to consider more specialized care if her condition doesn't stabilize. Lena nodded, her mind already calculating. Another bill. Another impossible expense. She worked tirelessly, playing her guitar until her fingers ached, serving coffee at the early morning cafe. But the medical bills for Maya felt like an insurmountable mountain. Each note she played, each song she sang, was not just for art, but for survival, for Maya's next breath. Returning to their small apartment, Lena looked at Maya, sleeping fitfully on the worn sofa. The weight of her responsibility settled heavily on her shoulders, reinforcing her guardedness, her fierce, unwavering determination to protect the one precious life entrusted to her. A hidden message, a childhood drawing. This surgeon is closer than he thinks. Back in the sterile expanse of his penthouse, Aris found himself once again sifting through dusty boxes filled with forgotten childhood treasures. He pulled out old textbooks, faded report cards, but his hands searched for something else, something tangible, a link to the past that haunted him. Then, beneath a stack of elementary school drawings, he found it. A small, crinkled piece of notebook paper. On it, drawn in Elara's childish, looping hand, was a rudimentary treble clef, followed by the first few bars of their melody. Beneath it, a tiny, almost illegible inscription, "Our song, for always." A wave of profound nostalgia washed over him, a warmth spreading through the cold chambers of his loneliness. This wasn't just a melody. It was a promise, a secret language they had shared. Lena knew it. She played it. The connection was undeniable, irrefutable. Holding the fragile sheet music, Aris felt a renewed surge of hope, a desperate, rekindled fire in his soul. This small, hand-drawn music sheet, a relic of a forgotten past, would now be his guide. A family name, a distant town. Is this the thread that leads to Elara? Marcus Bell's office was a testament to organized chaos, stacks of files defying gravity on every surface, yet he navigated it with the precision of a seasoned tracker. Dr. Aris Thorne sat across from him, the sterile elegance of his own world, a distant memory as he leaned forward, anticipation a tight knot in his chest. "I have something for you, Doctor," Marcus began, his voice a low, gravelly drone that belied the significance of his words. He slid a file across his desk, its contents neatly compiled. Lena Petrova. Born here, raised here. Her mother was a Petrova as well, but her maternal grandmother, her maiden name was Vance, and she lived in the same county Elara Vance's family moved to after they left town. Aris's breath hitched. The name, Vance, hung in the air, a silent, echoing chord. It was a distant, almost imperceptible tremor, yet it resonated deep within him, stirring a fragile hope he hadn't dared to fully acknowledge. He picked up the file, his eyes scanning the sparse details. Petrova. Vance. The threads were tenuous, almost invisible, but they were there, weaving a pattern he had spent a lifetime trying to decipher. A surge, cautious, yet potent, coursed through him. This wasn't just a lead. It was a whisper from the past, a possible connection to the girl he'd never forgotten. He felt closer, instinctively, to the truth. The origin of the song, a childhood promise, but what happened to break it? The memory burst forth, vibrant and sun-drenched, a stark contrast to the muted tones of Marcus's office. It was summer, a lifetime ago, in Elara's backyard. The air smelled of freshly cut grass and honeysuckle, alive with the hum of bees. Young Aris, perhaps 10 years old, sat cross-legged, a crude banjo fashioned from a cigar box and rubber bands resting on his knees. His fingers, still clumsy, picked out a sequence of notes, a melody that had been born in his imagination, a gift meant only for her. Elara, a whirlwind of bright laughter and unbound energy, twirled on the sun-dappled lawn, her hair a wild halo. "Play it again, Aris," she'd cried, her voice a chime. "The one only we know," he played, the simple tune blossoming under his touch, and she danced, a sprite enchanted by his music. When he finished, she collapsed beside him, breathless. "It's our secret song," she whispered, her eyes wide and earnest. "Promise me you'll never forget it. Promise me you'll never play it for anyone else." He'd promised, his young heart swelling with a loyalty as vast and boundless as the summer sky. It was a promise of forever, sealed in a melody and a child's innocent vow. Torn apart without a word, the secret behind Elara's vanishing act is finally revealed. But forever was a fragile thing, easily shattered by the harsh realities of the adult world. The idyllic summer scene dissolved into a deluge of rain and chaos. Aris, soaked to the bone, stood in front of Elara's house, now a tableau of packed boxes and frantic activity. A for sale sign mocked him from the drenched lawn. He'd run all the way there, a desperate fear clutching his throat. Elara's parents, grim-faced and distant, barely acknowledged him. "We're leaving, son. It's for the best," her father had said, his voice cold, devoid of warmth. Then he saw her. Elara, her face streaked with tears that mingled with the rainwater, was being pulled towards a waiting car. Her eyes, usually so bright, were filled with a raw, desperate confusion. She wrenched her hand free for a split second, pressing something small and smooth into his palm. "Don't forget me, Aris," she'd cried, her voice a broken whisper as her mother bundled her roughly into the car. He looked down at his hand. It was a small, hand-carved wooden bird, their secret symbol of friendship. The car pulled away, splashing mud, leaving him alone in the rain, clutching the bird, the melody now a ghost in his heart. The unspoken questions, the abrupt, cruel departure had haunted him for 50 years. The melody is a family heirloom. What hidden story is this young musician unknowingly carrying? In her modest apartment, Lena Petrova sat with Maya, a worn photo album open on her lap. The rain outside tapped a gentle rhythm against the window pane, a stark contrast to the bustling market. Lena pointed to a sepia-toned photograph of a young woman with a guitar, a faint, almost shy smile playing on her lips. "This is your grandma, Elara, honey," Lena said, her voice soft with affection and a touch of wistfulness. "She was the one who first taught me this song." Maya, her head nestled against Lena's shoulder, looked at the photo with wide, curious eyes. "The pretty one?" she asked, her small voice humming a few familiar notes of the melody Lena so often played. Lena smiled, a bittersweet curve of her lips. That's the one. She wrote it, you know. Or at least, she said she did. It was her special song, and she passed it down to me. Now I'm passing it down to you. Maya's small fingers reached out, tracing the outline of the woman in the photograph, then moved to the neck of Lena's guitar. The melody, a legacy of love and memory, continued its quiet journey through generations, a secret carried unknowingly. A forgotten newspaper article, a family connection. The truth is within reach. Back in the present, Aris found himself immersed in the hushed sanctity of the city library archives. Dust motes danced in the shafts of light filtering through tall windows, illuminating rows of meticulously preserved history. His fingers, usually so precise in the operating room, now moved with frantic urgency through brittle newspaper clippings and faded public records. He was searching for any mention of the Vance family, any clue that might bridge the gap between his past and Lena's present. Then, a discovery. An old newspaper article, yellowed with age, chronicled a local music competition from decades ago. Local prodigy Elara Vance claims top prize before family relocation, the headline read. His eyes darted down the column. A small paragraph mentioned her family's move to a specific town and, almost as an aside, noted a distant cousin, a Petrova, who had attended a farewell gathering. It was a faint whisper across time, a tenuous thread, but for Aris, it was a thunderclap. A Petrova. In that town, the pieces, once scattered and disparate, were beginning to align, forming a picture he was now determined to complete. He knew what he had to do next. He had to go to that town. His career hangs by a thread, but some quests are more important than status. Asterisk. The sterile hum of Dr. Alistair Finch's office was a familiar sound, yet today it grated on Aris Thorne's nerves like a dull scalpel. Dr. Finch, the hospital's head of surgery, sat across a polished mahogany desk, his impeccably tailored suit a uniform of cold authority. His gaze, sharp and critical, fixed on Aris. Dr. Thorne, Finch began, his voice devoid of warmth. We've received observations, concerns regarding your recent focus. He paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle. Absent-mindedness in rounds, a certain detachment during discussions. Your performance, while still clinically sound, lacks its usual precision, its presence. Aris felt a familiar knot tighten in his stomach. He knew this was coming. My personal life doesn't interfere with my professional duties, Dr. Finch, Aris stated, his voice quiet but firm. Finch merely raised a brow. Doesn't it? When your professional duties demand absolute, undivided attention, sending it to personal distraction becomes a liability. Your position here, Dr. Thorne, is not merely a job. It's a trust. And that trust is predicated on unwavering commitment. Refocus, Aris, immediately. Or your distinguished career at Metropolitan General will become a thing of the past. Aris's jaw clenched. The threat hung heavy in the air, a cold, unyielding ultimatum. He was being squeezed, forced to choose between the life he had built and the ghost he was chasing. As he left the intimidating office, the weight of Finch's words pressed down on him, but beneath it, a defiant spark still flickered. He couldn't abandon this quest, not now. He's watching her. She's getting scared. Is this a quest for love or something darker? Asterisk. Later that evening, the flickering streetlights cast long, uneasy shadows across Lena Petrova's modest apartment window. She pulled back the worn curtain, her heart skipping a beat. There it was again. A sleek, dark sedan, parked a block down, its tinted windows reflecting the city's distant glow. It had been there yesterday. And the day before. The same car, the same unsettling presence. A shiver ran down her spine. Maya, honey, stay away from the window, okay? She whispered, pulling her young niece closer. Maya, oblivious, nodded, her small hand clutching Lena's shirt. Lena's unease had curdled into a cold, protective fear. This wasn't a coincidence. The strange surgeon, Dr. Thorne, was stalking her. She confided in her friend later, her voice tight with anxiety. He's persistent. And now he's just sitting there, watching. It feels predatory. Her friend urged her to consider a restraining order, a suggestion Lena weighed heavily. She couldn't risk Maya's safety. Her guitar, usually a source of comfort, now felt like a target. If he appeared again, she wouldn't just walk away. She would confront him. She would protect her small world. The truth is buried in this sleepy town. What secrets did Elara's family keep? Asterisk. Aris Thorne found himself in the quiet, almost forgotten library of a small, sleepy town, miles from the city's frantic pace. Dust motes danced in the afternoon sun, illuminating rows of ancient tomes. This was the town Elara's family had moved to, a place that held the keys to a past he desperately needed to unlock. He approached the librarian, a woman with kind, perpetually startled eyes and a cardigan that seemed woven from cobwebs. "I'm looking for information on a family, the Vances," Aris began, trying to keep his voice casual. "They moved here, about 30 years ago." The librarian's eyes, magnified by her thick glasses, widened slightly. "The Vances? Oh yes, I remember them. A rather private family." She shuffled through old community newsletters, yearbooks, and local event registries. Slowly, clues emerged. An entry about Elara Vance winning a regional music competition. Another mentioning her attendance at the local high school, alongside a young Lena Petrova, a distant cousin. The connection was tenuous, yet undeniably there. "They had a difficult time settling in," the librarian murmured, almost to herself, her gaze drifting to a faded photograph of the town's old music hall. "Some folks never quite understood their ways." Aris felt a surge of hope mixed with frustration. He was close, tantalizingly close. But the direct link, the irrefutable evidence, remained just out of reach. The town held its secrets close, but Aris was determined to unearth them. Smonseres, he offered money for her past. She refused. Some things are priceless. Asterisk. The next morning, Aris, armed with a new lead and a misguided sense of purpose, waited outside Lena's apartment building. He spotted her leaving, her guitar case slung over her shoulder, Maya skipping ahead. He approached, a crisp envelope in his hand. "Lena, please, wait." He reached her, his voice earnest, if a little clumsy. "I understand your situation. I know you're struggling. I want to help." He extended the envelope. "This is for information. About the song, about Elara, whatever you can tell me." Lena's eyes, usually veiled with weariness, now blazed with a raw, furious indignation. She didn't even glance at the envelope. "You think you can buy my story?" she spat, her voice trembling with barely suppressed anger. "You think you can just throw money at my life, at my family's memories, and make them yours?" Her expression was one of profound disgust, a mirror of Elena Vance's, when Julian had tried to buy the locket. "This isn't some transaction, Dr. Thorne. This isn't something you can purchase. My past, my mother's legacy, the song, they are priceless." She turned abruptly, pulling Maya closer, her back stiff with defiance. The door slammed shut behind her, leaving Aris alone on the pavement, the envelope still clutched in his hand, a monument to his colossal misjudgment. He had misread her completely. She's changing her life to escape him. Has this surgeon gone too far? Asterisk. Back in the small apartment, Lena paced, her anger slowly giving way to a chilling resolve. Maya, sensing her distress, clung to her leg. "That man, Maya," Lena explained, her voice low and steady, though her hands still trembled. "He's not leaving us alone. He's trying to hurt us." Maya's small face crumpled in fear. "Is he going to take us away?" Lena knelt, pulling her niece into a fierce hug. "Never, sweetheart. Never." But the fear was real. She couldn't keep putting Maya at risk. She decided then and there. No more farmer's market. No more predictable spots. She would vanish, become a ghost in the city. An uncatchable melody. She pulled out a worn city map, circling new, obscure parks, quiet street corners far from her usual haunts. She would change her entire routine, disappear into the urban tapestry for Maya's sake. The surgeon had overstepped, and now Lena would ensure he could never find them again. Money couldn't buy her story. Now a new approach. Will it work? In the quiet, orderly chaos of Marcus Bell's office, Aris Thorne paced, a restless energy thrumming beneath his tailored suit. The scent of stale coffee and old paper filled the air, a stark contrast to his own antiseptic world. He recounted his disastrous attempt to buy Lena's story, the words tasting bitter on his tongue. It was crude, insensitive, he admitted, running a hand through his already disheveled hair. Marcus, ever the pragmatist, merely nodded, his gaze steady. Some things aren't for sale, Doctor, especially not memory or family. You need a different key for that lock. Aris paused, the truth of it hitting him. He wasn't chasing an object, he was chasing a ghost, and Lena was its living echo. He had to pivot, to seek Elara's story, not Lena's. He had to understand the past to unlock the present. His focus sharpened, a new, quieter determination settling over him. He would find Elara's fate, her truth, and then, perhaps he could approach Lena not as a buyer, but as a fellow guardian of a shared memory. Elara had a daughter. A tragedy. The pieces are falling into place. Days later, Aris found himself in a small, sleepy town, miles from the city's pulse. The local historical society was housed in a charmingly dilapidated building, filled with the scent of aged paper and forgotten lives. An elderly archivist, a woman named Ms. Albright, with a kindly, wrinkled face and eyes that held the wisdom of decades, greeted him. Aris explained his search, carefully avoiding direct mention of Lena. Elara Vance, you say? Ms. Albright mused, her fingers tracing the spine of a dusty ledger. Oh yes, I remember the Vances. They moved here when Elara was a girl. A vibrant, artistic spirit, that one. Always humming some tune. Aris's heart seized. Did she stay here long? Ms. Albright sighed, a soft, mournful sound. Not long enough. She had a little girl, a daughter, a real joy she was. But then, a tragic accident. Car crash, just a few years after moving. Cut her life short, poor dear. The words struck Aris with the force of a physical blow. Elara? Gone? And she had a daughter? His vision blurred, the dusty room spinning around him. The melody, the photograph, Lena. It all clicked into place. A devastating, yet undeniably clear picture. A song passed down through generations. The melody is more than just music. Meanwhile, back in her small apartment, Lena sat on the worn sofa, her guitar resting on her knee. Maya, her younger sister, sat beside her, her small fingers awkwardly fumbling with the strings of a ukulele. No, like this, sweet pea, Lena murmured, guiding Maya's hand. Remember? Grandma Elara used to say it was like a little bird taking flight. She played the opening chords of the unique melody, a tender, lilting tune. Maya, her brow furrowed in concentration, tried to mimic the sounds. Grandma Elara really made this song? She asked, her voice soft. Lena nodded, a wistful smile on her face. She did. It was her gift to us, a piece of her heart to keep us warm. Maya finally managed a few clear notes, imperfect but sweet, a tiny echo of the enduring harmony. The melody filled the small room, a comfort, a connection, a legacy that transcended the harsh realities of their daily lives. Lena looked at Maya, a fierce, protective love shining in her eyes. This song, this legacy, was theirs to cherish, a testament to a love that time couldn't erase. The name on the birth certificate, Elara Vance. The truth is out. Days of frantic searching, fueled by a grief he hadn't known he still carried, led Aris and Marcus Bell to the county records office. Marcus, leveraging every contact and a few favors, finally held a faded, official document in his hand. Here it is, Aris, he said, his voice unusually soft. Lena Petrova. Born October 14, 2000. Mother's name. Marcus paused, his eyes meeting Aris's. Elara Vance. The air left Aris's lungs in a choked gasp. It was real. It wasn't a delusion, not a coincidence. The woman he had loved, lost, and unknowingly mourned for decades had lived, loved, and given life. Lena, the resilient street musician, was Elara's daughter. His Elara's daughter. A profound, earth-shattering wave of emotion crashed over him. Grief for a life cut tragically short, but also an impossible, shimmering joy for the connection he had unknowingly sought for so long. A single tear, hot and unstoppable, rolled down his cheek as he reached for the faded document, his hand trembling. The truth, finally, was out. He has the truth. But can he find her before it's too late? Aris knew he couldn't wait. He clutched the birth certificate, his mind racing. Lena needed to know. She deserved to know. But Lena, wary and hurt by his previous attempts, was actively avoiding him. He searched frantically, crisscrossing the city, visiting every park, every street corner where musicians gathered. He left messages with sympathetic buskers, describing Lena, the melody, a desperate plea in his voice. Finally, in a quiet, less frequented park, he found himself alone. The sun was setting, casting long shadows. He took out his old guitar, a relic from his youth, and began to play. The unique melody, the one he had composed for Elara, poured from his heart, raw and unpolished. It was a haunting call across the city, a desperate search for harmony, a silent prayer. "Lena," he whispered into the gathering dusk, his voice thick with emotion. "Please, come home." He played on, a lonely surgeon, his music a beacon in the fading light, hoping against hope that the lost melody would finally guide her to him. The city park was a mosaic of muted autumn colors, a less trafficked refuge Lena had found after weeks of evading the persistent Dr. Thorne. She strummed her worn guitar, the strings familiar beneath her calloused fingers, but her heart wasn't truly in the music. Maya, nestled beside her on a picnic blanket, sketched in a small notebook, occasionally humming along to the melody Lena played. Their melody. Lena needed money, desperately, but the joy of performing felt distant, overshadowed by the unsettling feeling of being hunted. She finished a passage, her gaze sweeping the sparse crowd, and then her breath caught. Standing, partially obscured by a gnarled oak, was Aris. His presence was a physical shock, a jolt of recognition and rising fear. His eyes, usually so guarded, were wide with a mix of desperation and reverence, fixed on her, on Maya, and on the quiet song that flowed from her hands. Lena's fingers stilled on the strings, the melody fading into the autumn air. Aris approached, each step measured, as if walking on fragile glass. He sat on the bench beside Lena, not too close, his movements betraying a deep nervousness alien to the composed surgeon. Maya, sensing the shift, clutched Lena's hand, her eyes wide with apprehension. Aris's hands, the same hands that performed delicate surgeries, trembled slightly as he produced a faded photograph and a folded official document. "Lena," he began, his voice rough with emotion. "I know you don't trust me. I wouldn't either. But you have to see this." He laid the photograph on the bench. A young woman with a vibrant, artistic light in her eyes, a smile that mirrored Lena's. It was Elara. Then, the birth certificate. Lena Petrova, daughter of Elara Vance. Her world tilted, the park spinning around her. "Elara, your mother," Aris explained, his voice a gentle, sorrowful current. "She was my childhood sweetheart. We composed this song together. She died young in an accident, not long after you were born. I've been searching for her, for years, for a piece of her. And now, I've found you." Lena stared at the documents, then at the photo, then at Aris, her mind struggling to reconcile the impossible truth. Maya tugged at her hand, confused. "Mommy, who is that?" A tear, hot and unexpected, traced a path down Lena's cheek. The photograph, the birth certificate, Aris's earnest, heartbroken face, it all coalesced into a truth so profound it stole her breath. "Aunt Elara," she whispered, the name tasting different now, heavier with a legacy she hadn't understood. She used to tell me stories about a boy who loved music, who made up songs just for her." Lena looked at Aris, her eyes blurring with unshed tears. "She said this melody, it was their secret. A promise." Aris nodded, his own eyes glistening. "A promise we never got to keep." The sunlight broke through the canopy of trees, casting dappled light on their faces, on Maya, who now looked from Lena to Aris with a dawning, innocent curiosity. In that quiet park, surrounded by the echoes of a shared past and the weight of a shared grief, a fragile, unexpected connection began to bloom, a silent understanding passing between them. Back in the sterile quiet of his penthouse, the city lights a distant glitter. Aris finally allowed himself to process the magnitude of the day. He held the small hand-carved wooden bird, Elara's last gift, its smooth surface a tangible link to a love lost too soon. The revelation of Lena's identity, of Elara's daughter carrying their melody, resonated deep within his core. It was a mirror, reflecting not just a lost love, but also the long-buried guilt of his past surgical mistake. He couldn't save that patient, a failure that had defined his emotional landscape for years. But now, he could bring peace to Elara's legacy, connect a daughter to her mother's memory, and offer a future to Lena and Maya. His grief for Elara, once a heavy, isolated burden, now intertwined with a sense of purpose. A path to healing, not just for them, but for himself, had finally appeared. A quiet, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips as he looked out at the vast, indifferent city. In her small, familiar apartment, Lena clutched the faded photograph of Elara. The woman in the picture was no longer just a distant relative, but her mother, a vibrant artist who had left her a melody, a legacy, and now, through Aris, a connection to a past she never knew. "Maya," Lena said, her voice firm, filled with a newfound pride. "This is your grandma Elara. She was a musician, like me, and this song we play, it was hers, a gift." Maya, sensing the shift in Lena, looked up, her face bright with understanding. A new determination shone in Lena's eyes. The fight for Maya's future, for their stability, suddenly felt different. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about honoring a legacy, embracing a truth that had been hidden for too long. Lena stood tall, her shoulders back, ready to face whatever came next. She had a story, a family, and a strength she never knew she possessed. His career was on the line. But this time, he wasn't fighting alone. The hospital boardroom was a sterile tableau of power. Polished mahogany, hushed whispers, and the imposing, unyielding gaze of Dr. Alistair Finch. Aris Thorne stood before them, not as the renowned surgeon they knew, but as a man stripped bare, his heart exposed. Beside him, Lena stood tall, her hand resting protectively on Maya's shoulder. Maya, a small, brave figure, clutched a worn teddy bear. "Gentlemen, Dr. Thorne's recent distractions are a matter of grave concern," Finch began, his voice a clinical drone that sought to dissect Aris's emotional journey into a professional failing. "His judgment has been compromised by a personal obsession." Aris met Finch's cold stare. "My personal journey, Dr. Finch, led me to a truth that transcends any medical textbook. It led me to the lost melody of a childhood, and to a family I never knew I had." He gestured to Lena and Maya, his gaze unwavering. "This is not a distraction. This is a profound reconnection, a human truth that has given my life a purpose beyond the operating room." Finch scoffed, a dismissive sound. "A touching narrative, doctor, but hardly relevant to patient care. We require focus, precision, not sentimentality." The air thickened, a palpable tension hanging over the room. Then, Lena, with a quiet strength that belied her unassuming presence, unslung her guitar. A ripple of surprise went through the board members. Finch's face hardened, ready to object. But Lena's fingers were already moving, plucking the first, unmistakable notes of the unique melody. It was the song Aris had composed, the one Elara had loved, the one that had echoed through generations. The music filled the sterile room, a soft, insistent harmony that seemed to challenge the cold, hard lines of the mahogany table and the rigid expressions of the men around it. This melody, Lena's voice, though soft, carried an undeniable power, was a gift from my mother, Elara. She taught it to me, just as her mother taught it to her. It's a song of love, of loss, and of unbreakable connection. She looked at Aris, then at Maya, a profound love shining in her eyes. It's a legacy, a reminder that some things can never be bought, or forgotten, or dismissed as mere distractions. The melody swelled, a pure, unadulterated expression of the human heart. Finch shifted, visibly uncomfortable, his carefully constructed composure cracking under the weight of such raw, unexpected emotion. The last notes of the melody faded, leaving an echoing silence more profound than any spoken word. A board member, an older woman with kind eyes, cleared her throat. "Dr. Finch," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "Dr. Thorne's dedication to his work has never been questioned. Perhaps a renewed sense of purpose, a personal connection, might actually enhance his empathy, his understanding of the human condition." Finch's jaw was tight, his gaze flicking from the sympathetic faces of the board to Lena, who met his stare with unwavering dignity. He had been outmaneuvered, not by logic, but by the undeniable force of human connection. "Very well," Finch conceded, his voice clipped, a grudging defeat. "Dr. Thorne will be reinstated. However, let this serve as a formal warning to manage your personal life with greater discretion in the future." He shot Aris a final, icy glance, then turned on his heel and strode out, leaving the room with a palpable sense of relief. Aris and Lena exchanged a look of quiet victory, a silent promise of a future forged not in steel, but in the enduring power of a melody. A few days later, the stark efficiency of Aris's office felt different, infused with a new warmth. Lena sat opposite him, Maya perched on her lap, a small smile playing on the child's lips. Aris, his usual professional demeanor softened by a genuine kindness, spoke gently. "I've arranged for Maya to see Dr. Evelyn Reed at Children's Hospital. She's one of the best pediatric neurologists in the country." He handed Lena a folder. "All the appointments are set. And don't worry about the costs, Lena. That's taken care of." Lena's eyes welled with tears, gratitude overwhelming her. "Aris, I don't know what to say. You've given us everything." Maya, sensing the emotion, looked up at Aris, her small hand reaching for his. He took it, a gentle, reassuring squeeze. The weight of his past mistake, the life he couldn't save, felt lighter now, replaced by the profound joy of offering a new beginning. He saw a brighter future in Maya's healthier, happier smile, a profound healing that no surgery could accomplish. The sun streamed through the leaves of an old oak, dappling Elara's headstone with light. It was a peaceful, quiet afternoon. Aris, Lena, and Maya stood together, a new family unit at the grave that had once represented only loss. "She would have loved you, Lena," Aris said softly, his voice thick with emotion, as he recounted stories of Elara's vibrant spirit. Lena nodded, a bittersweet smile on her face. "I feel like I know her now, through you and through the music." She took out her guitar, and the familiar, beautiful melody filled the air. A tender tribute, a bridge across decades. As the last note faded, Aris reached into his pocket. He pulled out the small, hand-carved wooden bird, the secret symbol of his childhood love. With a deep breath, he placed it gently on the headstone, finally letting go of the past, allowing it to rest in peace. A wide shot captured the three figures, a testament to enduring love, lost and found, and a quiet harmony of a family reunited at last. The sleek, sterile lines of Dr. Aris Thorne's penthouse, once a monument to his solitary success, now softened at the edges, breathing with the vibrant chaos of life. Lena's vibrant tapestries draped over once bare walls, Maya's brightly colored drawings adorned the stark white refrigerator, and the scent of freshly baked bread often mingled with the lingering aroma of Lena's herbal tea. Aris watched from the kitchen, a quiet, contented smile playing on his lips as Maya, perched on a plush rug, meticulously assembled a new, intricate model airplane, a gift from him, a small gesture that brought immense joy. The silence that once filled the vast space, a heavy cloak of his loneliness, had been replaced by the light-hearted banter between Lena and Maya, the rustle of turning pages, and the sweet, sometimes off-key, strumming of a small ukulele. His home, once a gilded cage, was now a sanctuary, alive with the warmth of a family reborn. Lena Petrova, once a solitary figure busking on street corners, now stood in a small, intimate music studio, her guitar a natural extension of her spirit. She was no longer playing for survival, but for passion, her eyes shining with purpose as she guided her eager students through the intricacies of a new chord. Every lesson was a story, every note a connection. She played the unique melody, the one that had brought Aris into her life. explaining its personal significance, its journey through generations, a legacy from her mother, Elara. Her students listened, mesmerized, understanding that this was more than just music. It was history, love, and resilience woven into sound. The burden of financial precarity had lifted, allowing her true artistic self to flourish, her melody now touching more lives than she could have ever imagined. At Metropolitan General Hospital, Dr. Aris Thorne moved with a renewed sense of purpose. The shadow of past failure, once a constant companion in the sterile glow of the operating room, had finally receded, replaced by a profound clarity. During a complex surgery, his hands, always precise, now moved with an almost gentle confidence, his focus unwavering. Later, speaking with a patient's anxious family, his words were no longer merely clinical, but infused with genuine empathy, a warmth that resonated in the quiet corridor. His colleagues, accustomed to his brilliant but distant demeanor, noticed the change. There was a new light in his eyes, a quiet strength that transcended professional competence. He had found redemption not in erasing his past, but in understanding its role in shaping a heart now capable of deeper connection and more profound healing. Under the gentle caress of a sunny afternoon, Aris, Lena, and Maya found themselves in a vibrant park. A picnic blanket spread beneath a sprawling oak. Laughter punctuated the air as they shared stories and simple sandwiches, a scene of domestic bliss Aris once believed impossible. Maya, her health significantly improved thanks to Aris's connections, now giggled as she played a simplified version of the unique melody on a small, brightly colored toy instrument, its sweet, imperfect notes a harmony of their shared future. Aris and Lena exchanged a loving glance, a silent testament to the enduring threads of connection that had woven their lives together. The melody, once a haunting echo of loss, now played a joyous counterpoint to the laughter, a living symbol of love's powerful, redemptive song. And so, the lonely surgeon, Aris Thorne, who once healed bodies but carried a broken heart, discovered that the greatest operation of all was the mending of a soul. Lena Petrova, the resilient musician, found not just stability, but a true home and the freedom to let her spirit soar. Their story, woven from a unique melody and the enduring power of love, reminds us that true wealth is not found in grand achievements or material possessions, but in the profound, unbreakable bonds of human connection. It teaches us that even the deepest wounds can heal, and that sometimes the greatest treasures are those we thought were lost forever, waiting to be rediscovered in the most unexpected places. If this story of redemption and reunion touched your heart, let us know in the comments below. What melody guides your own journey? Don't forget to like this video and share it with someone who believes in the enduring power of family. And most importantly, subscribe to our channel for more real-life dramas that will move you, inspire you, and remind you of the extraordinary stories hidden within ordinary lives.